Oi oi people, Silky here, and you're listening to the Lifer Musician Podcast, a podcast exploring the minds of creatives who've dedicated their lives to pursuing a career in music. The Lifer Musician Podcast is brought to you by Hookings Management, my artist services company that empowers our fellow DIY musicians to grow a monetised fan base without a record label. We offer a range of services such as online marketing, artist mentorship, release campaign management, videography, photography, graphic and website design, plus tons more useful services that are built to cater for independent musicians on small, self-funded budgets. Helping musicians market and monetize their art form is our passion. So if you're an artist that needs help taking your career to the next level, please feel free to reach out and get in touch via hookingsmanagement.com, where you can book a video call with me for some free advice on your project. On today's episode, I'll be chatting to my good pal, Dan Dodson. He's an extremely hard-working and entrepreneurial DIY musician. Myself and my team have had the pleasure of helping his mod revival band, Block 33, build a large, monetised fan base over the past few years, and both Dan and I are excited to be sharing with you guys how we've been able to do this, so that hopefully you can apply some of the same methods we've used to build Block 33's fan base to benefit your own music career. Let's get into it. Dan Dodson, pleasure to have you on the Lifer Musician Podcast today, my friend.
Great to be here, mate. Thank you very much for getting me on. It's a pleasure actually to be the first person to be asked after Top Cat, actually. So well, yeah,
pleasure's all mine, mate. Pleasure's all mine. Yeah, you're definitely one of the most entrepreneurially minded musicians I know. The first question I want to ask you is, how long have you been fully aware of the entrepreneurial nature that you have within you? And how would you say it's helped your music career?
I would say from really as far back as I can remember, I've felt quite like the odd one out, you know. I don't know whether that's the right way of putting it, but I never felt like I fully fitted in with the people I was sort of knocking about with at any given time. I never really felt like they understood me fully. You know, I've had mates that I've had for years and years and years, and I'm still mates with them to this day, but I think even they'll probably say, like, he's a fucking nutter, you know, like, I just don't think in the same ways, you know. So really, as far back as I can remember, I felt like I've had something in me that was just a little bit different to everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But
is that in the way that you sort of like always thinking big and a bit of a dreamer? Is that where you first recognised it?
I've always been a dreamer. Yeah, Jesus Christ. Yeah, like yeah. I mean, I'm sure we'll touch on it at some point, but yeah, I've always been a dreamer. Always thought, well, there must be more to this, you know, in terms of, I don't know, anything, you know. But like, to answer your question with how having that spirit has helped my music, it's been the difference between just being cool with wherever it is that I am at that moment and thinking, well, where can we take this? You know, because it's perfectly all right to be content. It's a wonderful thing to be content. But it's dangerous for me to be content, because what's the best way of putting it? Like, if you're content, there's no growth, you know?
Yeah, and growth is what spurs you on the most in life.
You hear a lot of entrepreneurs saying, if you're not growing, you're dying. You know, and I couldn't, for me personally, that is very, very true. Like, if I feel at my happiest when I've got a goal. Yeah. You know.
You've got like an obsessive nature, like I have, and I would say most lifer musicians have. In fact, all lifer musicians are going to be obsessive. And like, when did you first like recognize that in yourself? So you've always been, as far back as you can remember, like a big thinker and a bit of a dreamer, and perhaps, you know, your mates were naturally more down to earth in their sort of goals and that in life, and so palmed you off at times as just being a bit nuts. And that made you feel a bit different to them. So that's definitely one component, isn't it? Of you need that to sort of to be able to embark on the kind of journey that we're both on in music. You need to have that about you. I think the other thing you need is the obsessive nature, which I know you've got, obviously, from being your mate and working with you for a few years now. Can you remember, what was your earliest memory of that obsessive nature being a thing?
Right. Okay. So looking back with hindsight, it's been there from day one, because I think with little kids, they are naturally obsessive about stuff. They're exploring the world, and everything's new and mind blowing, So they say that kids up until 5 years old are operating at genius level. It's society that dumbs them down, and the conformities. I don't know if that's even a word, but you know what I mean. Like, society makes you conform and be a certain way, doesn't it? To fit in. But in hindsight, a lot of those childish things, like obsession, they just never left me. Really, it was only, I can't really sit here and honestly say to you, yes, that was the moment I was like, yes, I am a fucking obsessive bastard. It was just a collection of things like, wow, when I was 7, I used to sing the national anthem in the garden in an England kit before I played football, with a picture of the Littlewoods logo on the fence. Yeah,
and could you name like the full squad and everything?
I can still name you the most pointless things, like London postcodes. They just stuck with me while I was working all in and around London. I just become obsessive. Right, I must know every single London postcode.
Yeah. So I guess when you're into something, like, you go full hog, and what I'm trying to sort of decipher is like the early incarnation of that behavior. Because I know for me, like what you're saying resonates. I'm thinking back to how obsessed I was with West Ham. I could name back then like the entire squad. I lived and breathed it for a few years of my life. Queuing up at rooms in Upminster to meet Julian Dix and have a picture with him and get him to sign something was fucking one of the highlights of my childhood. And I was properly obsessed with West Ham. When my parents introduced me to Madness at like the age of 5-6 years old, and I got obsessed with the VHS of Divine Madness, which was a compilation of all their music videos. I was properly obsessed, wanted to be Suggs. Nothing's changed really. And danced like him, and I had that thing. I could see it. With my little boy Vinny, who's about to turn 1, he's obsessed with Elmo. Fucking obsessed, mate. It's like when Elmo is on, he's got a little Elmo toy as well, and it's electronic and it sings and everything. It's like it's his world. And what's crazy is we'll show him like other kids' TV, and he won't give a fuck for it. He'll be kicking off and just like he won't want to know, but you put that on and he's just mesmerized and smiling and clapping along and that. But you say like all little kids are like that. I wonder if they are. Because I look at that, and me and Steph laugh, and we're like, fucking hell, he's got your crazy gene anyway. He's just got that tunnel vision and that obsessive nature about him, which is a great thing. I mean, I used to think it was a curse. As I'm sure you did at times.
And it was a curse.
Yeah, when you're not fully aware of, because it is we'll now appreciate that it's a blessing, right? Because one thing that I noticed so I had a car valeting business for a little while in my late 20s, and my music career wasn't going very well, and valeting cars around Brentwood, fairly wealthy area, Brentwood. And I met some of my clients were rich entrepreneur types, and they were working class dudes that had done well. And I ended up bonding with these guys. I had a bit of a preconceived thing about when I started that business. I was a bit of a musician that had failed and thought, fucking, I just got to turn my hand at something to make some money now and retrain or whatever, you know? And I had a bit of a, because of the Towie culture and everything in Brentwood, it's sort of, a lot of it is quite materialistic. And I just had a little bit of a preconceived thing of like, I'm not gonna like my customers, which was actually really shallow of me to be thinking like that. But I was just thinking, yeah, these ain't gonna be my people. But just shut up, get on with the work, get paid, and you know. And I ended up, my wealthiest customers were the most, like two in particular, were two of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life, and they come from really hard working class backgrounds. Abusive households growing up, poor, and I had so much in common with them, and they had this like crazy outlook on things, and they were recovering addicts like I am, and I was, and yeah, they had fucked up relationships with their parents, and it was really like, wow, like these dudes are like, I've met some people that sort of have been through the same things as me, and when we talk about things, because we spoke about music and business and creativity, and we had a lot in common. And I was just, ironically, fucking hell, man, I wasn't expecting this. Obviously, the riches and that is we'll, might get there one day.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was that stuck with me, and it was like, yeah, I guess that if you channel that obsessive nature and that crazy streak you have in you to take risks, often at times, you know, it can be a little bit destructive, but if you've got that in you, do you know what I mean? You can channel that into positive things.
Well, this is the thing with an obsessive nature is simply that. It's an obsessive nature. It's down to you it's like money. Money's just money.
Yeah.
How it's used defines whether, you know, people say money's the root of all evil. No, it's not. Evil people use money. You know, and it's the same with an obsessive nature. Now, for years after I left school, that obsessive nature I was using it in an extremely negative way. You know, I mean, I was only young. I was only doing what other people were sort of doing, going out all the time. But you know, if I weren't the most pilled up person in the entire East London postcode, the whole weekend was a failure. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that was genuinely the attitude I had.
Yeah.
So obviously when you continue that behaviour for a long time, it becomes extremely detrimental. And it was a guy called Jamie Hunter, who lives in Chelmsford, Brad, by the way. Funny enough, I met him in Ibiza when I was at my absolute fucking lowest. And this dude had just had his hotel room broken into, passport stolen, clothes stolen, didn't have fuck all other than what he was wearing. And that kind of went around the hotel that there was this dude that this happened to. But he was the first person round the pool, once the DJ come on, dancing. I thought, I've got to have a word with this geezer. You know, because here I am, got everything, all my mates were there, and I was fucking miserable. And he turned me on to The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. And it was that book which changed everything overnight for me. And I thought, right, I've got this nature in me. Now I've just been using it in the wrong ways. And let's start trying use it in a really great way. And that was what led me to music. You know, the ethos of the book is to live a happy and fulfilled life. Choose something you love and do it as often as you fucking can. And that's what's led to this, you know. But in answer to your question, yeah, an obsessive nature used in the right way is an incredible tool. And I feel very lucky to have it in me. And I attribute it to my mum and dad, really, because they've never really been forceful in any kind of way, like, you should be doing this or you should be doing that. They've kind of just let me find my own way. And if I ever got too close to the edge, they'll be like, hang on a minute, son, we think you're fucking going off the rails a little bit here. Yeah, so I've got them to thank for it, really, I guess.
Yeah. So the obsessive nature, the sort of big thinking mentality, being a bit of a dreamer, those are like natural components of an entrepreneur. think the other thing is not being content with an everyday job, 9 to 5 situation. When I met you 4 odd years ago, one of your biggest pain points was that you were just so uninspired working for someone else, fitting carpets, and music was your outlet and gave you a sort of a chance to be creative and expressive, and just would light you up like that day job never could. So I think that's another important thing, right? Being discontent with the conventional everyday sort of working lifestyle and the boundaries of a 9 to 5. Obviously, there's a lot of security that comes with that, but that's not enough for us, is it?
Well, do you know what, mate? Yeah, I at my early 20s, right, especially when I sort of like stopped going out partying and all that, I found myself just to be completely lost in life, because this thing that had taken up all of my energy for the last 5-6 years was now not something I just wanted as far away from me as I possibly could. So I found like I had nowhere to channel all that energy, you know, and I found myself to be quite an angry little fucker for a little while. Combined with the fact that the firm I was working for at the time had the ethos of like once an apprentice, always an apprentice. So I should have been earning a lot more than I was, and I just felt furious. But what came from those really, really hard times were those songs on 636 to Liverpool Street that people fucking love, because they came from the heart. Those songs, I didn't think anything of it at the time. I've said to you a few times, when I'm writing a song, it's just circumstantial nonsense to me at the time, whatever's coming out lyrically. It's only when I look back at where I was when I was writing that, I was like, fucking hell, that's about that, you know?
Yeah.
And all those songs now, looking back, are me saying, this is shit, but I ain't giving up hope. You know, I'm going to keep going and something amazing is going to happen. You know, so all that discontent channeled in the right way, something amazing came from it.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing, that. And one of my favourite characteristics of Block 33 is how aspirational and hopeful the lyrical themes of the songs are. So it's awesome to hear, mate. It's awesome to hear that.
Appreciate it, mate.
What's up, everyone? It's Brad from 2 Year Break. That song you heard at the start of the podcast is from my band. It's taken off our debut album, Do You Want to Find Love? If you're into pop punk music, new metal riffs, anything in between, then check us out. We're on all the major streaming platforms. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your podcast.
So, all right, so these components then. So we've got a bit of an obsessive nature. We've got someone that's not content with conventional 9 to 5 lifestyle. And then what was the other one? So we had obsessive nature, conventional, not being and being a big thinker.
Yes,
and having been what people would label as a bit of a dreamer, but what we would perceive as just not being limiting in what you believe you can achieve as a human, no matter what life throws at you. So they're huge components, aren't they, to being an entrepreneur. So how have those things helped your music career?
Without question. Like listening to you talk then was just my mind naturally just cast back to the early days of Block 33. Now, we were fucking appalling in the early days. We were really shit, you know, but we all loved being in a band and it didn't really matter. But I remember saying to Keno, and it become a thing, where we going, Keno? And they go, to the top. And then I went, bigger than who? And they go, the Beatles, you know? And I honestly used to go around telling people that when they say, oh, look, you know, you're into music now, like, what's your sort of aim with it? I go, to be bigger than the Beatles. And I got people laughed in my face, and rightly so. But, you know, if you got 5% of the way to being as big as the Beatles, you could jack the day job in.
Yeah.
You know, so having that,
fucking
it's the 10x rule.
Less than that, mate.
It's the 10x rule, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, if you want something, plan for 10 times more than you think it's going to take, and you'll get there. You know, and I don't know, it's just that attitude and the dreaming of what could be when you think about something for long enough, it ends up showing up in your life. That's good or bad.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and I would say that being that sort of, I guess, having the audacity to think like that in the first place, that's almost like the protective blanket you need to have the balls to start a journey, like starting a music career at the age of 26, because you literally learnt to play guitar, didn't you, like in your mid to late 20s?
Yeah. So that was I started off as a drummer, and then I just decided after listening to certain music that I wanted to be a songwriter. The emotional journey that other songwriters took me on, I wanted to at least have an attempt at doing the same, for other people. So yeah, I subbed 250 quid off my mum, went and got a guitar. My mate Greg
what guitar was
me,
it?
It's a Freshman.
Right.
Yeah, it's not
acoustic or
nothing
electric?
special. Yeah, an acoustic, like an electro-acoustic. Yeah. Still got it, and probably going to be going on the next crowdfunding campaign to any Block 33 fans. My mate Greg lent me an Oasis chord book, classic, and that was it. I just started learning how to go from one chord to another, and after sort of like 4 or 5 chords, I was like, well, Sally Cinnamon's 3 chords. Let's just have a fucking crack at it. And the first song I ever finished is actually going on this second album.
Oh, wow.
That
cool.
may well be already out by the time this podcast goes out. It's called The Devil's Silhouette. And yeah, it was the best thing I've ever started doing.
Yeah, and I think that starting at an older age gave you the fact that your second ever song that you've written is going to end up on your current album shows that maybe it's not such a bad thing, like getting into songwriting at a slightly older age, because I guess a lot of bands a lot of musicians learn guitar when they're a teenager or whatever musical instrument when they're a teenager and start. I remember, fuck me, some of my first songs, they're not fit for public consumption whatsoever. But I guess you've had this. You're writing songs at 25, 26 years old at this stage. So you've got that maturity and that bit of life experience. And not just that, you've been listening to a lot of music by that age, and you've got quite a well-trained ear, because you've been, you've been listening to loads of bands and going to loads of concerts your whole life, or raves or whatever. And so you've got a mature ear. Do you know what I mean?
I think there is an element of that, definitely, but it comes back again to the obsessive nature. I used to so I got an Oasis, Beatles, and the Stone Roses chord books of their whole discography, right? And I used to pick my favourite songs, and I used to sit there with the guitar, looking at all that, just studying it. What makes this song great? And it's an emotion that makes a song great. I didn't realise that at the time. I'm looking in this chord book, trying to find trying to pick a key in there somewhere, But from doing that, made me realise the importance of, say, a middle 8 or a certain chord change that would take you lovely into a pre-chorus or whatever, So that obsessive nature of wanting to know the ins and outs of a duck's arsehole regarding every single song that I like stood me in good stead for when I actually did start writing,
Yeah, and I guess, so just to add to that, when you have got that obsessiveness that you have as sort of in your innate it's innate for you as an entrepreneur. If you discover something and take to it, and it gives you that stimulation and fulfillment and creativity, you will spend fucking hours on end and outwork anyone. You'll spend so much. I bet there were periods of your life. I bet during that period of your life, you put fucking untold hours in, right? Not playing catch up, because there's no right or wrong age to start becoming a musician. But obviously, once you'd made that decision and almost had this spiritual moment in that, I want to be a musician, and this is going to be my life's, like, this is my I'm dedicating my life to this pursuit. I'm getting no fulfillment from my day job. Prior to this, I've been going out and getting fucking pilled up and not looking after myself and all right, having a laugh in the process, but that's not sustainable. This is a thing that's making me feel positive and hopeful, and like it's going to give me a new sense of adventure in life. So I bet, like, once you discovered that and started bashing through those chord books and everything, I bet you probably put like double the hours of what people would usually put in, like in a week, like when they're just a kid kind of picking it up and they've got time on their hands, maybe.
Yeah, so I, going out partying every weekend for 5-6 years. I touched on this on a blog I've done on the band website recently. I was absolutely appalling at waking up in the morning. But all of a sudden, I was setting my alarm 5-10 minutes earlier than I had to get up, just so I could sit there and just get another 10 minutes in on that guitar. Like, and obviously, I'm talking like 5:30 in the morning. I've got to be double quiet, but it was just amazing to, again, like, because I touched on it earlier, there was a short period of my life where I just felt lost and nothing to sort of focus on. It was amazing to have that back and it being sustainable this time. You look at Paul McCartney, what is he like? Got to be mid-70s. Still playing that bass. It's something you can do forever.
Yeah.
And that was an amazing feeling to think, like, even if nothing comes of this, I've got it forever now. And
that fulfillment of what that brings. So were you putting in like mental hours, like around the day job and at the weekends and stuff?
Well, I'd gone from someone who was never home to someone who was always home, just because it was just giving me so much. And I knew that if I could get pretty good at this guitar, I knew I had enough up here that goes round my noggin to get it down on a bit of paper. The trick is marrying the two. Can you get the words down that sound good with a chord pattern? But I was dedicated. My mates were ringing me up, coming out, you doing this. We're only going up the cafe. You're going to come out this time. I was just like, no, I'm not interested. And just sat here with this guitar, like, and I'm more than happy to just be here on my own. And me and you, Brad, actually were chatting last week, weren't we? We were perfectly happy in our own company. And all of that has come from the guitar, I think. Yeah, it's been, like I say, the best thing I've started doing, songwriting.
Yeah, it's a mad thing, that, isn't it? I think, again, as like entrepreneurs, you got a work ethic like no other. But if you're not really stimulated by that work, you're a lazy cunt. Like every subsidiary fucking job I had that weren't in the music business. Well, my car valeting business was different because I found that I had a bit of a passion for business all of a sudden. I obviously weren't really enjoying washing cars out in the freezing cold in the winter, but I liked the fact that it was mine and I created it, and I was out there hustling and earning money and challenging myself. But other than that, all the jobs I had working for other people, I became lazy in them, and I wasn't a great employee because I wasn't stimulated, and I was just so fucking bored and numb, and I felt lethargic all the time, and I'd need to drink fucking 6 coffees a day to just sort of, get through it. And but then you find these things in life, like you and I have with music, and like, business, and merging the two, and you've just got like a fucking engine, like no other. And I think all true entrepreneurs, definitely ones that have made any form of substantial success, have got that in them. And so I think that I guess the point I'm trying to get across is musicians don't often identify as entrepreneurs or business type people, but you putting all those hours in to learning to play the guitar and then write songs, like and not having the discipline to not go out with your mates and have a beer at the weekend and play catch up a little bit and try and become a musician in a short space of time that can write songs that are worthy enough for public consumption, and that's as disciplined as any startup business process. Like, do you know what I mean? Like
yeah, totally. But again, mate, it comes back to that obsessive nature. So if there is anybody listening who's sat here thinking they sound just like me, these two,
it's a good thing.
It's a good thing. There are going to be people that tell you, "Oh, you're so obsessive," like it's a bad thing, you know. Like, I mean, they might be using it to their detriment now, but it is a blessing if you're looking to have any kind of success in anything. Like you say, you having an obsessive nature is an absolute godsend.
And once you're the thing that you're obsessed about and ultimately passionate about becomes monetized, if you decide to do it as a business, there will be points where you will feel a bit bogged down by it and you feel a lot of pressure, and you'll maybe forget like why you were doing it in the first place, because all of a sudden new responsibilities come with it being a job of some kind. I think and what you may do is you may be labeling yourself at times. I know I've done this as a bit of a workaholic, and like, because it's become my work, my music, my artistry and my music business, like whenever I'm doing it now, it gets categorized as work, and I spend a lot of hours doing it, you know. I gave up drink and drugs nearly 10 years ago now, and I'm a family man. I'm a chilled out introvert at heart. I don't really, I like to spend my own personal leisure time when I'm not with my family working. Like I was in last night on a Friday night. I put my little boy to bed. My missus was out, and I happily jumped on Facebook ads for Death of Guitar Pop and just cracked into those and set up about 12 ads for our upcoming tour and loved it. I had the telly on in the background and a little fucking Heineken Blue. And I'm fully comfortable with that now. Whereas I think before I was a little bit worried about, am I a workaholic? Is this a bad thing? Like, I need to know when to switch off and not do it. But it's like, no, like, this is my passion and I love doing it. And like, this is the thing that I find this fun and stimulating. And other people might have spent their evening going up, well, not if they've got a little boy upstairs they're looking after, but they might spend their Friday nights going out to the pub or gaming or whatever else. And that's great. You can still have other, before you shoot me, Brad, you can still have other hobbies if you're this way inclined. But yeah, I don't get any. There's other things I'm into. I love watching like boxing. It's something I'm really into. Bought a skateboard again a few years ago, and
did you?
Yeah,
did you
man,
really?
I'm fucking shit. But there's been a few times in the summer, Brad's like fucking Tony Hawk, where we've gone out skating, and it's been great. I'm fucking terrible, but it takes you out of yourself and you feel like 14 again, and that is a nice release. But ultimately, nothing gives me, in terms of my own personal interest and my sort of solo leisure time, nothing gives me that fulfillment and joy like this work does. And that's because before I ever got paid a penny for doing this, it was what I chose to spend my time doing, like what you're describing anyway. So I think, I just wanted to get that point across. Like, musicians, when it starts to feel quite intense and you cross over into some kind of career business mode with it, don't forget that, like, to just embrace that and enjoy that, and don't feel guilty that, we've spent more time this month working on Facebook ads than we have writing songs. Like, it's cool. It's all part of the process.
Well, one of the best pieces of advice I've ever heard regarding entrepreneurship was, you are the product of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yeah,
right?
That's a great one. That
now, if you are surrounded by people who are telling you, oh, you're so obsessive, you work too much, blah, 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 blah. Obviously, these people are probably only saying it from a place of that, you know, they care about you and they don't want you to burn out or whatever. But they're saying that really because they don't understand.
Yeah.
If you truly believe in what you're doing, you love it, and you're surrounded by like-minded people, those people are going to keep you in check, I think, you know. So it's really important to surround yourself with like-minded people if you're going to undertake such a, what's the best way of putting it, like unconventional life path.
Yeah.
You know, because there are going to be so many times
normalise that within your circle.
Yeah, totally. Because there are going to be times.
On a Friday night, that's sweet, that's standard, you know.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. There are going to be times if you are not kept in check by close friends or whatever, you're going to think, and you've actually said this to me in the past where you've thought it about yourself, is there something fucking wrong with me? You know, am I fucking mental or something? Just being so hell-bent on making this project work. Whereas now, after a few years of studying entrepreneurship and whatever, we know that that's how it's got to be if you want to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. So let's talk a bit about your background as a musician. We spoke a little bit about that, but like, what I'm more interested in that we haven't spoke about yet is like, so you've learned these songs and that, like, where did you start in terms of like live performing, and was it open mic nights, and did you form the band first, or?
No, so how it started, obviously, like I said, I was writing tunes at home, and I'd always go in the kitchen and go, because my dad, you know, bless him, he's my biggest fan. He's been to every single gig of mine apart from 2 where his sister was getting married, and one we were playing on a Tuesday night in Sheffield, and Tottenham beat Real Madrid 3-1 that night, so I'll let him off.
Did he go to the Leopard in Doncaster?
No, sorry, 3. But I'll also let him off that because that was a fucking waste of time. But anyway, what I was getting at, I'd always go in because I knew I could always, it'd stop what he was doing to have a little listen to me, and I'd go, Dad, you know, what do you think of this? And he'd always give me his opinion. Then after a while, he just said, look, Dan, are you going to play these to me forever, or are you going to go out and play them to other people? So that really got the cogs turning in my head, because when I started writing songs, I did not dream for 1 minute it would be me singing them, because I couldn't sing at the time, you know, like it was the guitar that tuned my voice in. But in the end, after numerous failed meetings with random musicians off of joinmyband.com and all of that, I just thought, you know, bollocks to it. I'm just going to make some demos, put them out, and hopefully I'll get a booking. And I did, and it was the first one was at the Library Bar on Upper Street in Islington on like a Thursday night or something. And it's a night I will never forget to the day I die. It was terrifying but thrilling, and it was just an amazing night. So in answer to your question, never done any open mic nights that I can remember. It was just sending demos out to small promoters that I found online, you know.
And naturally, were you playing with were you on lineups with full bands, and you were sort of the opening acoustic solo act sort of thing?
So I was quite lucky where I'd done that gig down Upper Street, and then one of my close mates messaged me. No, sorry, one of my close mates who was there that night, her friend's dad was running nights, or just started running nights up in Hertfordshire, where I'm from, because there was a really, unbeknown to me, there was quite a really booming unsigned music scene in Hertford at the time. So got introduced to him, and then I just started playing, and that's when I started playing, like opening up for bands, you know, locally. And it still staggers me to this day that they had no idea, but I'd only started, these are like my second and third gigs ever as a dude singing some songs he'd written in the bedroom of his mum and dad's house, because they were all going, I fucking really like that. You got any like EP or anything physical I can buy? And I was like, must be fucking joking. I've only just started this, you know, like it was just, a bug. When I see other people were enjoying these songs that I'd scraped together, that was it. I was hooked. I was like, right, this is me now. You know, tried, and I've started experiencing some success with it. You know, even if it's just a few people, you know, down the pub saying, "Oh, I really like that song." You know, it was enough to make me think, right, where can we take this?
Cool. And you met Keno playing football, who's the bass player in Block 33, for anyone listening that doesn't know.
Yeah, so one of the venues that I started playing in Hartford, called the Dog and Whistle, they were having like a charity match, and I didn't know anybody well at all. They just asked me to play. I was like, yeah, I love football, let's do it. And I went and played this game, scored a screamer, by the way. With my first touch, come on, sub ping top corner. And Keno was on the same side. Now, I don't think I even spoke to him that day, but I remember him clear as day because he looks like a Viking, doesn't he? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's a unit, isn't he?
You know,
yeah. When I first met you guys, fuck me, that's the firmest handshake I've ever felt in my life. I thought, fucking hell, like.
Yeah, I mean, he's
letting me know he's boss, but actually he's not. He's a fucking lovely geezer.
He's one of the most placid fellas you ever meet.
He's just a unit. Yeah.
But yeah, I sort of met him for the first time that day, and then just through gigging locally, I see his band, the Braves, play at the time, and yeah, I think I had a gig. Funnily enough, we've just shot the video for our new single, The Girl in the Yellow Jacket Dress, at this venue. I had a gig there, and that was when Keno and the old drummer at the time, Matt, said, like, our band's kind of falling apart. Why don't we do something with your songs? Because they're clearly not meant to be acoustic. You know, I was playing like what the world's expecting on an acoustic guitar. Just, you know, you could just screaming out for some drums and all that, you know. So yeah, we started Block 33 from that.
Were there moments in that? So before you guys met me and we started with the marketing and you had any organic fans, like what were your how long were you together before we started working together?
So I can tell you, just because I still have got the poster imprinted in my head. The 21st of November 2015 was the night we first spoke about starting a band together.
Right.
And we started working with you in June 18.
Okay, yeah.
So it was about, 2.5 years or something, you know.
And what were during that period, let's talk about the highs and lows. Like what was, obviously I'm sure there was a honeymoon period where you felt like Liam Gallagher every time you rocked up to rehearsal, because we all have that in the beginning. And then what were the sort of pain points that led you to reaching out to me to help you? Because I know that when we first sat down, you had all the will and work ethic in the world, but you were quite frustrated by the process, I guess, of trying to build a fan base. So yeah, let's talk about the highs and lows of that initial period of the band.
So obviously in the early days, like you just touched on, being in a band is the best thing in the world. Don't let anybody, when rock stars and they go, oh God, I've had such a grueling tour. It's like, fuck off. Go and fit carpets for a couple of weeks and see how you feel. It was the best thing in the world, It's just, I cannot explain how good it was. But obviously we weren't very good, as no bands are straight out the traps. And we had a lot of work to do with regards to our sound and all that, which at the time I found immensely frustrating, because I just wanted to be brilliant, and know that there's a real good chance we could be successful. But obviously it's like anything, it takes work, doesn't it? Which is time and effort. So I found it really frustrating being shit, but you got to remember everybody's shit in the beginning. But it was what led us to wanting to work with you was obviously Mitch, who we both use to make our records. I'd always got on well with Mitch, and he said to me, oh, I've had this band, this band in Deaf Guitar Pop. He said, there's this geezer, Ollie. He said, you've got to meet him. You'd love him. You two, like two peas in a pod, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, he went on to tell me that you'd started a management company to help bands like ours because you'd applied this
DIY method,
perfect, to your own band and was having like real success with it. So I was like, I've got to meet this geezer. Got to meet him. Then he gave me your number, and there was a bit of like phone call tennis for a while, wasn't there? I was ringing you while you were rehearsing, and I was working when you were ringing, blah blah blah. But I think the four of us were well aware that we needed some help, and there was a band at the time called the Hunter.
Yeah,
who
they're from your neck of the woods, aren't they?
I'm not sure where they're from actually. But it was very, like the Arctic Monkeys are known as the MySpace band.
They're the Facebook band.
These, to me, were the Facebook band.
Yeah, absolutely. What they did was fucking phenomenal. Yeah.
So I was like, well, look, it's possible to do this shit without a record label. And I need to find out how. I'd thrown some money at some Facebook ads myself. Obviously, failed miserably. Load of views, no comments and all that kind of thing. So I knew we needed some help. And when Mitch told me about you, I was like, well, this dude knows how to do it. We got to work with him. I had a word with the boys, arranged a meeting with you. And the rest is history, isn't it?
Yeah, man. I mean, so you guys were like my first client.
No, yeah.
Yeah, and it'll be 4 years in June, yeah? I should know that, shouldn't I?
Yeah, you should.
Just had the fucking blinkers on, man. Like, I know it was 4 years, 10 years. So I guess, just to sort of, to add to that. So where I was at, I think at that point was 2018. So I think we'd just played our debut show at the Oslo in Hackney that was in December 2017, and that had been a rip-roaring success. Sort of a couple of hundred organic fans in there that paid 15 quid to see our band. Only perhaps, 10, 20% of the audience were friends and family, and the rest were genuine, real fans. And we'd been running Facebook ads for about a year prior to that. And in that time as well, in the summer, we crowdfunded our debut album and raised about $6,500 on that. And the band was building a lot of momentum, particularly on Facebook through the ad platform, and was publicly monetized in the crowdfunding thing and the show being a success. And artists did just start to naturally reach out to me. So I had this idea to create a service for like my fellow DIY musicians and help them apply the methods that we've applied to market and monetize deaf and guitar pop independently with their own careers. I think when we sat down, what was so cool about having you guys as the first client, and perhaps why it stood the test of time and been on an upward trajectory ever since, is you were just so open to like listening to my guidance. You were the chief of the band. There's usually like a team captain, and that was definitely you. And so like the guys, I think, would just trusted your judgment on everything, which was great. And you seemed to completely trust mine. And I didn't like the way the feedback that I gave you guys in those early days. I think a lot of artists wouldn't have, even like as constructive criticism, wouldn't have been able to fully embrace that. Do you know what I mean? There's always this like air of like, oh, I'm not sure if I think I know better.
It's ego, isn't it?
Yeah, perhaps a bit of ego. But you guys just like, you didn't have that. Do you know what I mean? You were literally like willing to just follow my full guidance, even beyond your judgment was, we just need to trust this guy. He's doing it right. We need to do the same.
And that pretty much was what I was saying to the band. Look, obviously we're going to have our opinion on what Ollie says, but what we've done so far has failed. We've picked up a local following, which is brilliant. Play locally, some people come, that's fantastic. But it wanted so much more than that. And what we were trying was failing, and bless fucking boys, like If I'd go, right, boys, we're playing Sheffield on a Tuesday night, like, right, coming in, who's driving? You know, the work ethic was there, but it was just aimless.
Yeah.
You know, and I think maybe owing to our age, we were aware that we needed help. And where we could, the proof was in the pudding with you, Ollie. You know, you weren't just talking a good game. It's like, right, look at my band. Do you want some of this or not? And the question is,
I just want to clarify, I didn't actually put it like that.
No, of course. But
It's just sound like an arrogant wanker.
No, I'm just.
No, but I know what you mean.
I'm just saying this is what we were thinking. This is what we were thinking.
Yeah.
It's either we carry on the way we are, or we listen to this dude. So it was like, right, well, we listen to Ollie, and it still fails, and clearly there's some internal problem, you know. So it was easy for us, Ollie, like at the time.
So, I mean, my next point, so this leads quite well onto this, is rebranding Block 33, embracing the mod subculture, and cracking a niche audience. So that was, I think, probably like me recognizing that in you guys, like that there was mod elements to what you did, and we need to really like hone in on this and target that audience. That might be some of the best work I'll ever do in my life, I think, because fuck me, it's worked a treat, isn't it?
Yeah, it has. You know, how that all come about was I'd been dressing like a mod long before I really had it. I'd obviously heard of what a mod is and the sort of like the basics of it. But I just loved the clothes, and I still do, you know. And that's how I was dressing at the time. And when you said about taking that angle, you know, because Jamie comes from a mod family, Andy does. Keno, believe it or not, used to have a proper mod haircut, you know, and he's always into it. Got a lot of the clobber himself, so it's easy to just suggest that angle and everyone run with it. Yeah, so but with regards to all that, for me, like the first sort of introductions I had to the mod thing was pub I used to drink in called Tommy's Bar. I remember being in there one Sunday, normal Sunday, we're in there watching the football, blah blah blah, and then the older lot in there were off out somewhere, which wasn't the norm in that pub because everyone stayed there, and the football, it was like, well, where are you going? They were going to this thing called Sunday Best, which is like a mod scooter rally. And it was a beautiful day. We were all like, fuck it, let's go with them. And it fucking blew my mind. You know, like you had the Small Fakers were playing that day. And obviously like recognised a lot of their tunes from like the radio and whatever. And that was my first real introduction. I was about sort of 17, 18, I think, into like mod culture. You know, going through the clothes rails at these scooter rallies. I was like, fucking hell, I love all this, you know. And that was quite bold of me to even think that way, you know, to be hanging around with geezers who go Spurs in like a Stony and all of that get up. It just hooked me in. I thought, this is I fucking love this. Like the culture, you know, the haircuts, the clothes, the music. And so I'd sort of dressed that way for a long time without really dipping my toe in it, to be honest. Just go to this scooter festival once every year it was, but that was about it. But then when you suggested going down the mod route fully, that was my license to go, right, let's fucking nosedive into this.
And there was a bit of a, because you'd recorded the album, hadn't you, already?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But I was listening to the songs and thinking, these are great songs, and like what he's singing about is very like the lyrical themes very down to earth and like British, and like, you know, you're from Enfield and you talk with like a sort of London accent, and or, you know, and they but the accent that you were singing in was like kind of American-y, almost a bit like James Dean Bradfield from the Manics, and it was cool. Like, but I was listening to the songs and thinking, if he sang this in like the same way that he talks, because I had this moment in my career. So in SOE, right. I used to do the same thing, singing the same style, that sort of American-y, like sort of big indie pop vocal thing. And then when we started Deaf Guitar Pop, I decided to sing in my accent that I talk in, and also sing about things like more kind of down to earth and everyday, in terms of like where I'm from and my culture and everything. And that had done me so well as a musician, because I never had a fan base in my previous band. And as soon as I put a song out in Deaf Guitar Pop with this new style and I guess showing a bit more of authenticity, it connected straight away. But you already had that in like the lyrics and everything, but I just felt the delivery wasn't right. So I suggested that to you, and you were really cool about it and just embraced it. And I know it was difficult for you to change your singing really style. Difficult, I know it was stressful, but it worked really well. And yeah, the whole thing of embracing the look. So, you know, you definitely had a bit of a mod look anyway, but it wasn't like it wasn't fully mod, shall we say, and the other guys had different bits like attributes and that, but we sort of all collectively, didn't we, made the conscious decision of like, let's go full Bifter, small faces. Let's get some. You had a suit already, didn't you?
Yeah.
Let's get some pucker suits and embrace it. Do you know what I mean? And go. A band hasn't come out in a while with original songs looking like that and being that bold and taking ownership of what that classic throwback mod nostalgia is. And yeah, I think collectively we all just agreed on let's fucking go for it, right? Oi people, Silky here. I hope you've enjoyed part 1 of my chat with Dan Dodson from Block 33. Go and check out the second part of our chat in the next episode of the Life a Musician podcast, which is available now on all major streaming platforms. Nice one.